Yes. Back at it again with the whatever the fuck I'm doing. Hello, single person watching this. My name is Scripe, and today I'm going to be continuing my now trilogy of school stories. Whether they be horror stories, funny stories, whatever you may have. Whatever I may have. Whatever it may be, that's the saying. I actually have some water with me here today, so I shouldn't need to cut things up like I did in the last one and use that not so good editor. But the drawing I have in the background going right now is a Draw Your Squad I did with a screenshot, I think from the channel Woohoo. I originally got the image from, I believe, D'Angelo Wallace, one of his videos. It was either Woohoo or Troom Troom, and I can't remember which, because they're exactly the same. But that's a whole nother topic to discuss. Today, I think I'm going to be discussing, as long as my water doesn't run out, I'm going to be discussing, grade 6 to grade 9. Or what I have dubbed the Shane trilogy. The Shane saga. That was what I was wanting to say. Now, Shane does have a channel on YouTube, as well as an Instagram account. And while I don't condone their actions, I just want to say their art is decently good. If you want to go give them a look, I think last time we talked, their handle was Shaney Sloth, Sleepy Sloth, or Sleepy Coffee Bean. So, yeah, like, go give them some love. I want to say we moved on from all this shit that happened, but the fact that she still has me blocked says otherwise, but that is later on down the road. I think, first off, I'm going to start with the positive things about those years, starting from grade 6, and then get into the nitty-gritty of the situation afterwards, just so that if you don't want to come here for a sob story about a depressed teenager who's one of only friends that they thought they could trust ends up betraying them in the end, then you could just watch this first part of the video. I'll try to leave a timestamp for when the nitty-gritty starts happening. So, yeah. I don't remember very much about grade 6, other than the horrible stuff that happened. Well, actually, there was one instance that I remember. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. It was film class, and near the end of the year, we had to do animated music videos. Not animated music videos. Music videos. We had to film them. But since I didn't have a group, my teacher, Mr. Belcher, I'm okay with saying his name because he was absolutely hilarious and I loved him, but he let me do an animation project on Scratch. For those of you who don't know, my old Scratch account, Victini CNG, I did a lot of attempted animation on there, and I still want to try to get back into animating eventually, but right now I just don't have the patience or the the software to be able to do it. I know Fire Alpaca has an onion layer skin thing, and I've tried animating. I just don't really know how to go about doing it, which is the issue, but that's a whole nother story. So I was trying to animate, I don't even remember what song, but in the middle of animating, I just got this heavy-ass wave of deja vu, and that was one of the first times I had ever had, like, a deja vu where it wasn't just a fleeting, oh, hey, that's cool. It was a full-on, I dreamed about this. I literally have experienced this before. And I've had a few instances of those in the past, which I could make a whole nother video about that. But that was something interesting. I think I'm grade 6. I had, I'm trying to remember what teacher I had. Oh, wait. Ah, yes, grade 6. Was it grade 6? Did I? I'm gonna go with the fact that I think it was grade. Okay, grade 9 was grade 6 Duffy? Because grade 9 was Brownridge. Grade 8 was. Grade 8 was. I can't remember his name for the life of me, and that makes me sad. Grade 7 was Duffy, so yes. Grade 6 was Mr. Ing. Now, at first, in my class, I was supposed to have Miss, for some reason I want to call her Miss Watermelon. So I'm just going to call her Miss Watermelon. I was supposed to have Miss Watermelon, who is we had her for the first part of the year. She was sweet. She was a real sweetheart. She was heavy into writing. And grade 6 was the year I started writing, or started, like, fully getting into writing and trying to write a Skylanders fanfiction called Second Leaf, which is still up on Wattpad to this day. Never had it finished because we lost a lot of the files because it was based off of a roleplay I was doing on Miiverse. But then the account that was hosting the roleplay ended up getting shut down, and we lost a lot of the files, and then of course Miiverse itself went kaput. So I've lost a lot of that. I think I saved some of it onto a Google Doc. Like, I went on, copy and pasted it from it was I opened it as a tab on my laptop, and I hadn't closed that tab, so it was still there, which was very nice to see. But yeah, I had started getting into that. So when I had finished my work, like my in-class work, Miss Watermelon would let me. She would let me work on it. Like, she would get me set up at a computer, whether it be a laptop or a. Wait, no, was this grade 7? Was Duffy grade 6? I am having an existential crisis. I can't remember. I'm gonna go with it saying that Ing was grade 6, Duffy was grade 7. 8, I know, was Fast, was Mr. Fast. And then grade 9 was Brownridge. Okay. But, getting back to the story, Miss Watermelon ended up getting pregnant. Like, beginning of school year. She was having a child. So she ended up leaving, and we got the teacher, Mr. Ing. Now, I think he was a new teacher, but new teachers either overcompensate, in my experience, they either overcompensate one way or they overcompensate the other. Where they're either, like, they either, I'm trying to think of their words here, but they're either really nice and don't know how to keep a class under control, or they are way too strict. Mr. Ng was the strict kind of teacher, where, I remember, I don't remember if I had Lissa in my class or not, or I think I did. Right, this was, yes, I had Ng and, because grade 6 was the year we started having doubles. Was it 7 the year we started having doubles? Did I have? I don't remember, but, because I think, okay, so this is grade 7. So I'm gonna continue with this story because I'm already on it, but I'm gonna jump back to grade 6 for Duffy, who is fucking amazing teacher. I love her so much. She was fantastic. But grade 7 was when we started having doubles. Or like, where we would have one teacher for one subject, and then one teacher for the other subjects. Whereas like, one would teach us math and science, and the other would teach us like, they would teach us ELA and social. How could I not remember that? My brain is just all over the place. But, but, but we had Miss Watermelon leave, and had Mr. Ng come in. And I do remember Melissa being in my class this year. But there were these two kids that I got along with ever so slightly. I can't remember their names for the life of me, so I'm gonna call them Tweedledum and Tweedledee. And they were okay. They were your typical class jokesters. But I remember one time, because I was also this type of person where sitting in a chair for too long would really mess with my work. So I would stand up every so often. And this still gets me to this day, where Tweedledee was the same type of person where you'd like need to stand up every so often. And we were in a work period, so it wasn't like the teacher was talking, it wasn't like he was disrupting class, he literally was just standing as he worked. And I remember Mr. Ng was like, he whipped his head over from his desk and was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I'm standing." He's like, "You're not allowed to stand. There's no standing in my class." I'm not exaggerating. We weren't allowed to stand in his class when he was talking, when he was working, until the bell rang. We had to keep our ass firmly sat in our desk. In our seat, not our desk. Yes, phase your ass into the desk. Parched. My water tastes slightly plasticky. Or like, you know the smell of like chlorine? It tastes like that smell. But I think that's just because I'm using an old cup. But, it was a fun year. And then on the opposite side, we had Miss Dole. I remember because later on down the line, the year fast, I had Miss Mistle. And that confused the heck out of me. But I had Miss Dole, grade 7, as well as Mr. Ng. She was our math and science teacher. She was aggressive, to say the least. She was very, like, she had a teenager's sense of humor, which, depending on the day, I could either get behind or was like, why are you doing this? But it was definitely interesting, because I remember her introduction to us was like, I'm so glad I'm going to be having older students, because she had originally taught younger grades. But she was so glad she was going to have older students, because they wouldn't, because when she made a joke, like, and trigger warning, she would make a lot of suicide jokes. And she was like, I'm so glad to have an older class because you guys aren't actually going to go out searching for me when I say I'm going to hang myself in a tree because you guys aren't listening. And that joke always rubbed me the wrong way. Which, I mean, jokes are jokes. I myself make self-deprecating jokes because I've dealt with that kind of thing before. And of course, I don't know her story, I don't know what she's been through, but it was one of those situations where it didn't seem like the right time or place to make that. Ooh, that also reminds me. Okay, so yes, this is later down the line, because I met Shane in grade 6. So yes, this is grade 7. But, in Miss Dole's class, I had a nosebleed. I wouldn't get nosebleeds very often, but sometimes my nose would just decide to bleed, as they do. But she was talking, and my mental health had already started to decline at that point. And I will be right back. The bell rang. Sorry, I was recording. Fuck. The door's unlocked. And return. My apologies. My parents got home from their walk, and I had locked the door behind them on accident, because they usually don't bring their keys in case I want to check the mailbox while they're out. But, and my cat got out. Fun stuff. Did I pause this? No, I did not. Okay. But, I remember Miss Dole was in the middle of talking. I think it was math. And I just suddenly feel something dripping down my face. There weren't any tissues around me. So I stick my sleeve up to my nose. Because I'm like, I don't want to disrupt the class. I have a lot of mental issues at that point. My mental health was just in a general decline that year, as it had been from grade 5. But I didn't want to disrupt the class. So I stick my sleeve to my nose. And I sit there. And I feel the blood pooling in my nose and on my sleeve. Luckily, I was wearing a black jacket, so it didn't really do much, but it didn't, like, stain or anything. But I remember I was just sitting there, waiting for her to stop talking. Because I didn't want to get up to leave. I didn't want to disrupt the class. I didn't want to make a big scene. So I'm just sitting there with my sleeve to my nose, slowly drowning in my own blood. And she felt like forever, and like halfway through her talking, I decided to try to move my sleeve away, because usually my nosebleeds didn't last for too long, and it stuck. It, like, gave resistance. So something was wrong. And so once Miss Dole stops talking, I like put my hand up and it's like, can I go to the washroom? She's like, yes. So I go to the washroom. She was also one of the teachers where it's like, can I go to the washroom? Well, why didn't you go during recess? But since she could tell I had my sleeve to my nose, she probably assumed I had a nosebleed or something. So I run off to the bathroom, girls' bathroom at the time, lock myself in the biggest stall, because that was my go-to place when issues were happening, was the biggest stall of the washroom. And I slowly remove my sleeve from my nose to find this gigantic blood clot. This is the only time I've ever had a blood clot in my nose. And it just, it's there on my sleeve. It was like big and red and gelatinous, had a few white spots in it. I don't know what those were to this day. I don't know what those were. I compared it to looking like an egg sack, and I was like, did a spider lay eggs in my brain? But I remember texting Shane about it, and she said that they said that it looked like my nose had a period. Which I still find funny. But back to grade 6, like I had originally intended to do. Oh, one more thing I forget before about grade 7, but so I had mentioned before that Miss Watermelon really was a big advocate for me learning how to read and write and all those fun things. So she would let me write when I finished my schoolwork. And back then I was generally on top of it, especially because I knew if I finished my schoolwork, I could write. And I really wanted to work on writing. I would stay up till the dark times in the night writing. It's just both a really good time and a really bad time, because that made me adverse to writing for a long time after. Because I had so many bad memories tied to writing that it was my escape, and I felt like going back to doing it meant I was getting worse again, which I know, no, I'm not. I really fucking love writing. But Mr. Ing I would go up to him after I was done, and of course sometimes he would let me, because if we had the laptops or if I had things, and he was generally an okay guy. Like, I'm not knocking him. He was generally very nice. He just, since he was new, there was a lot of things that he didn't quite have a grasp on yet, and he was very strict when it came to his class, which I work a lot better in a more, like, less linear, more flowy environment. But, rather than letting me write, 9 times out of 10, once I had finished my homework, or my classwork, or whatever you want to call it, he would get me to clean the classroom, which I was perfectly happy to. I enjoy cleaning. It's one of those things that I really do enjoy. Like, complete sidetrack, but at work one time I had to, like, scrub the walls clean because we were having an inspection and it hadn't been done in, like, months. So that was fun, but I'm gonna make a whole nother video on frickin' Debbie's All-American Diner. Which, I'll get into why I call it that later. But, like, in a different video, not this video. But, eesh, my eye is itchy. But, I would, rather than letting me write, he would make me take tacks out of the boards. Like, thumbtacks and the little, the wicker boards, whatever they're called. He would make me, like, sweep or put away, like, other people's books and stuff, make sure all the bins were organized. It was generally taking stuff off the boards and putting stuff on, but he was very strange to me that he wouldn't usually let me write. And, like, I'm not knocking him for wanting to keep the classroom organized and clean, but at the same time, when a student is coming to you to, like, hey, I finished all my work, I think I've done very good, here it is, can I have a little bit of time to work on my passion project? And you're like, no, clean. It's kind of disheartening. But grade 6. Grade 6 was the year I met Allie. And Allie was a sweetheart. That was one of the years I had been diagnosed with anger issues at the time because my psychiatrist wasn't good. They thought my depression, which manifested a lot as anger, was anger issues. Because no child can't have depression. Like, but Allie was a sweetheart. She was definitely one of the popular kids, but she still made time for me. And Allie and Juyeon, those were the 2 kids I remember most in my class with Miss Duffy. Or Allie was my friend. At the time, Juyeon was like my bitter enemy. And I don't know why I had such a vendetta against her. Like, she just, something about her rubbed me the wrong way, and I realized I was probably, like, little child me had a lot of issues in that year, and I was like, I was usually the smartest kid in my class, and then Juyeon rolls up, and it's like, haha, you thought. But she really was a sweetheart. But my little child brain was like, no, she is the spawn of Satan. And it also didn't help that Allie was one of the only new friends I had made that year. Like, the only new friend I had made since Zach. And that was a year I was very clingy. And I had met Allie, and at first, both me and Allie agreed that Juyeon was the spawn of Satan. At least from what I can remember. But then later on, Allie started actually getting to know Juyeon, like I should have. And Juyeon got very close, and I felt left out. I was always the in-between friend with people. But that's another conversation for later, because that comes more into play with the whole Shane situation. But, I remember one conversation we had in class. We used to pass notes to each other a lot, so we didn't disrupt the class. And I don't remember. I don't know if this was one of our note passing times or what, but I was making little paper dolls because I like making paper dolls. And I don't even know how it came up, but Allie started calling my paper doll my paper boyfriend. Good times. And then but I remember also that year I was getting more into like 12 Realms and trying to flesh out those characters too. So for a writing project we did, it was a murder mystery, or like a mystery story. Mine ended up being a missing mystery, like, hey, this person goes missing, help. And given the stuff was very loose at best, lightly strung together at worst. But I ended up using the characters from 12 Realms, which at the time was Scrape, Nyx, and Isla, and Sapphire. But I think Sapphire was away because that was the year that Becca moved, and she played Sapphire. So I didn't feel like writing the character because it felt like it would be lying. But and this was, I think, right after 12 Realms had split off from being a Legend of Zelda fan story to its own thing. We hadn't yet called it 12 Realms yet. It was the Legend of Scrape Island Sapphire, I think, was what we called it. Or the Adventures of Scrape Island Sapphire, whatever it was. The acronym SIS is usually what it went by, Scrape Island Sapphire. But, because I always find I have an easier time with writing projects when I relate them back to my own characters, if that's applicable. Like for this year's grade 11 writing project, I did Prince's origin story. Like how Osiris became Prince and all that fun stuff. But I remember being very discouraged because I don't remember who it was. It was either Allie or Melissa, but one of them would not really make fun of me, but poke fun at me for relating everything back to 12 Realms, because that was what I was comfortable with. That was what I had fun doing. And that, it was very disheartening. I have now in this day and age learned that I need, for the most part, to ignore what other people say about that kind of thing, like my role playing and my writing and everything. It's childish, yes, but I enjoy it, and that's what matters. That's not to say I don't take constructive criticism. I 9 times out of 10 do really appreciate criticism, which, if you have any critiques for my videos or the art going on in the background, please tell me. I need input. But, I might even make a video one of these days going back and reading some of my old writing. Like, I recently started editing a really old Skylanders story I had started called History of Darkness, or Skylanders Historia was the series name, but the first book was History of Darkness, or the Tales of Darkness, or whatever the fuck was how Chaos's origin story. Ah, yes, soup time. God, I'm sorry, I'm so all over the place. But, oh god dang, I need to pee. I'll hold it in. I might end up cutting this and just editing them together on my phone, if that's possible. But, sorry. Miss Duffy was, on a later note for that year, Miss Duffy was always very supportive of me, which was really freaking helpful. She would check in with me, make sure I was okay. I also had a scare that year where, and this is very embarrassing to admit, but a lot of kids in my class didn't like me. But that year as a coping mechanism, I roleplayed a lot as Chaos from Skylanders. Like, young Chaos, kid Chaos from my stories. And he had a lot of hardships that were like 10 times worse than mine. So I kind of projected that onto the other students in my class. And I also found it a little unfair that they got to do things I couldn't. Like, one kid was mocking me during a game of statue or graveyard, whatever it was called. So I did it back to him. And I got in trouble for doing it back to him, but he didn't get in trouble for doing it to me, which is a little unfair, I'd have to say. Let us both get in trouble for that shit, not just one of us. But, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes, you know? But, there was that instance where I ended up kind of blowing a fuse and was like, you don't know what I've been through, you don't know what they've done to me. And I ended up storming out of the class, and we had a substitute that day. So she didn't like me very much. I don't even remember who she was. She was a regular at our school, so I saw her a lot. But it was... Yes, I do have to say I overreacted. But I have a very hard time processing emotions, both back then and now. And yes, me projecting myself onto a character that doesn't deal well with hardships probably wasn't the best idea at that moment, but stupid kid things, you know? I remember Allie saying she was gonna come out to help me, but the teacher stopped her and went out instead rather than giving me the time I needed, which doesn't. And then Miss Brownridge afterwards came in and checked up on me because the substitute had told her what happened, and rather than being mad at me or thinking any less of me, she was worried about me. And it was very nice. She's, to this day, one of my favorite teachers. Her and Miss Brownridge stuck in my head the most. Probably because they're both so similar to each other, but they were just really good teachers. But Miss Duffy would help me with understanding things that I couldn't quite get a grasp on, or, like, helping me when I felt left out, or things like that. She was just generally really sweet. Grade 8. This is where we have, and the positive notes are progressively getting smaller and smaller because there were less and less of them as time went on. Less and less that I can remember, at least. But, grade 8 is where shit started to hit the fan. But again, we're gonna get into that in the second part of this video. They're still together, but I'm separating it into happy moments or non-Shane related moments and the Shane related moments. So, grade 8, I had Mr. Fast and Miss Mistle. Both fairly good teachers. Where's my son? I heard him sniff. But, one thing that I still remember from that year that isn't Shane related is the writing projects. Not writing, reading projects. So writing project, we had to do short stories. I did, I think it was 35 pages, which I'm still actually really proud of that story. But it wasn't short in the slightest. I remember other classes were having to do like only 2-page stories. Look at me, 35 freaking pages. I was able to cut it down from 40, but still 35 pages. Wild. And but the reading projects were, the first one was hectic as fuck. But it was like beginning of the year. Like we were just getting back into school after summer and everything. And like I'm not lying when I say this single project had like 27 separate things that we had to do for it. All like their own little mini project. Not even mini, their own full-sized, slightly smaller project compared to the main one. But it was insane. I felt so overwhelmed. And I remember her saying that this was what the workload was going to be like in high school. No. And again, I guess it depends on the teacher, but the workload I've had in high school has been not at all as hectic as that. We had, I want to say, like, again, two to 3 months to work on it. I know it wasn't 1 month because that's really small, but like 2 to 3. But even then, that's like, I'm trying to do the math in my head. Okay. Let's go with 3 months just to give the benefit of the doubt. We had to both read a full-length novel, write an essay about it, and then like 27 other things. I'm gonna round it up to 30 just to be simple. So we had 30 things to do, including reading a book and writing about it, like writing an essay about it. And like some of them were smaller, some of them were bigger. But let's say 3 months. 30 things. In 3 months there are 4, 8, 12 weeks. So we had to do, pulling on my hand dandy calculator like I should have in the first place. And correct me if my math's wrong, but we basically had to do for a single book, giving her the benefit of the doubt with 3 months rather than 2. Because I can't remember which it was. But there are 4 weeks, 12 weeks, 3 months, with 30 projects. So 30 divided by 12, we had to do 2.5 projects every week. 2.5 full-size projects that for me would probably take regularly, like, it would take me 1 week to complete 1 project. I had to do 2.5 every week for 3 months straight, on top of reading the book, which I could read fairly quickly, but it was one of those things where it was highly difficult for me because I was stressed as fuck over all of the other things I had to do. Though that year we learned about Edo Japan and the Aztecs and all that fun stuff. And, well, I don't really like the load of work that she gave us. She was a very good teacher. Like, I learned a lot from her teaching us, not a lot from projects, but I learned a lot from her teaching us. She was a very good teacher. She was also the in-school counselor, so that was handy. But that's one of the only main things. Oh, I also remember I was drawing a picture of Nightwalker in one of my AU chaoses. had the middle. He was holding up the middle finger because he was one of the first ever characters I created as an outlet for like swearing and shit. Because I wasn't comfortable with having any other characters do that. But and I was drawing it because we were supposed to go on a canoeing trip that day, but it was storming. And because we were supposed to go on a canoeing trip, I had to leave my phone at home. Oh, that was another thing that happened. I had a foods teacher. I'm jumping all over the place, but I had a foods teacher. I saw, like, I want to say 2 to 3 times a week. Because one day we would have foods, the other day I'd have my other one. I can't remember which it was. But, he had a strict no phone policy. Which I was not very good at following. Because I liked listening to music. It helped me work better. And, like, I was decently good at hiding it. But one time, he took my phone, kept it in his desk. Which I was upset with, because of steady spaghetti. The second time, he sent it to the principal's office, which I had to pick it up after class. The third time, it was a whole thing where first time, teacher keeps it. Second time, gets sent to the principal's office, and you have to go pick it up. Third time, it gets sent to the principal's office, but you have to pick it up either with a parent or with the teacher. And the thing was, he wasn't my teacher. So I couldn't go with him. I couldn't get him to help me pick it up because I was never in his class. And it also probably didn't help that, it was the end of the school year. Like, last day, I wasn't able to pick up my phone. So, shit had just hit the fan. I was broken, I was beaten down. It was a whole situation. So I'm basically bawling my eyes out underneath one of the high desks. And Mr. Vast comes over to me and he asks me what's wrong. He comforts me. And I tell him my foods teacher took my phone and I have no way of getting it back. Like, at that point, it had been in the office for, like, 2-3 days. I'm sorry, my ears are itchy. I need to... I have an earwax problem. Anyway, he ends up going down to the office and getting my phone for me. I don't know what strings he had to pull to do that, but I remember giving him the biggest fucking hug, and yeah, that year was shit for me, but he was still a really good guy. And, like, grade 8 was definitely the worst of it for me. That was grade 8 and beginning of grade 9 were peak shit levels for me. Ending of grade 8, beginning of grade 9. Which I will get into later in this video. Or I might just actually split it up into 2 parts, because this is starting to get decently long. Approaching almost an hour. And I don't know if I am emotionally stable enough to get into the Shane part of this, so I might end up doing that on a later date. Just splitting this into 5 videos rather than just 4. But, what was the laugh? Oh my god. Delving into... before we delve into grade 9, another thing that happened with the same foods teacher, I could never pass the food safety test. And I had passed it all the other years I'd done foods. I had done it with flying colors. But for some reason he wouldn't let us do the computer version. We could only do the paper version. But he didn't like wasting paper. So he didn't let us try, like, more times than... Like, it was a whole convoluted situation. And another thing that happened was the only one person passed the first time. That person was Melissa. Melissa was the only person that passed the foods test the first time we held it. Out of an entire class of 30 students, 29 of them failed, me included. But he also had this thing where when you failed, you weren't allowed to see your test. You weren't allowed to see what you got wrong. You weren't allowed to see what you got right. So you didn't know what you had to study. He would show you your mark, but he wouldn't tell you what you got wrong. He wouldn't tell you what you got right. He wouldn't tell you what you need to improve on. He wouldn't even show you the frickin' test. Because with the online ones, it would show you which ones you got wrong, it would show you which ones you got right, and it would let you immediately retake the test. And yes, some people can rig it by, like, just randomly choosing answers and seeing which ones they get right, which ones they get wrong. More of a memory game than anything. But throughout the entirety of that foods class, I couldn't cook anything because I couldn't pass the test. I tried 4 times and I couldn't pass the test because I couldn't see my fucking test. He didn't tell me what I got wrong. He didn't tell me what I got right. The only reason I passed, like, it was weird because I got, like, a passing grade. I want to say I got a 70 in a class that I couldn't cook fucking anything. It was because we held potlucks, and I could cook for those. One time I made soap or slime pie, and the other time I made lefse. Soap or slime pie is a pie from Homestuck. It's what Gamzee eats. And lefse is a recipe that's been passed down in my family for a while. It's like really thin potato bread that you put cinnamon and sugar on, roll it up, and eat it. It's really good. It's what usually happens at Christmas. I think it's Ukrainian. Don't quote me on that. But because I made those, I got a passing grade. I would have done a lot better if I had actually been able to freaking cook in that class. But all I had to do in that entire class was... And also another thing that's happened, which happened with Zach and also happened in the foods class, was I teamed up with Shane for both of those. I think I teamed up with Shane for both those. It was either both or just Silver Slime Pie. Because they didn't want to cook anything. So they got my grade for my cooking because I fibbed and said they helped me. Anyway. Grade 9, I went on the sailing trip, which was actually fairly fun. I had a good time. I saw moon jellies. I could actually make a whole separate video about the sailing trip, which I might actually do, because I'm running out of time, and my throat hurts, and I'm out of water, and I need to go pee. But, I went on a sailing trip. Really fun. Grade 8, I fundraised for it. Wasn't as fun, but I got to go on a sailing trip. I was bunking with Lakin and Raquel, who were two actually really sweet people. I remember I used to have a vendetta against Lakin for some reason. I can't remember why, but she's really sweet. I hope she's doing okay. And Raquel is also really sweet. But and then trying to think what else happened in grade 9. Miss Brownridge, sweet woman. No! I am out of music. Let's just put this on. But, Miss Brownridge, I had a very unique situation this year where, again, we had the dual teachers, but, I'll get more into this. Actually, I'm not even going to mention it because I'm going to keep all the stuff involving Shane to the Shane video, but I had switched classes with my other class because Shane. Because they were in the class. Shane, Gracie, and Saeed were in the other class, which was the class that was basically like the sister class to it was the sister class to my class, Miss Brownridge's class. So her and Mr. Nybo let me flip-flop between them because it helped my learning. Which I still, to this day, really appreciate. Miss Brownridge would give me copies of her notes that she made for the class, like she made for herself for the teaching class, because she knew that writing down notes for myself was very difficult for me. Like, so she let me, she would photocopy her notes for the class. And then, like, she made learning a lot easier. Like, if she was teaching me math and science right now, I would be passing. Like, I'm tempted to go back to my old school and just be like, hey, teach me, please. But, she was just really, really sweet. Mr. Nybo was really good, too. Oh, one funny thing that happened was, So that year I wrote basically like the origin story of my ship Demonology, which is Tazen and Krona. To this day, I still really like that book. Like, short story. Another freaking. I don't think it was as long. I think it was only 20 pages, but maybe 15. Either way, still, I cut down from last year. And, but it was. Shane had, they had used a, they had used a role play we had done for their book, rather than actually writing it. So basically, because they were the type of role player to do single responses, like single word responses, basically. And I would be writing paragraphs upon paragraphs with like detail and description and everything. So basically, I wrote their book for them, but not gonna get into that. I'm salty. And Tazen was in both of them. So Mr. Naibo recognized the character from my story and Shane's story. It was... He liked my characters, and he made a point to tell me that he liked my characters, and I've really appreciated that. And, like, he would comment on me doodling them and be like, oh, who's that? Have I met them in one of the stories you've written? I'm like, no, this is a different character. Or, yes, this is Krona, this is Tazen, this is... I would explain to him, and he would ask questions about it. Both him and Miss Brownridge did that, and it's one of the best things I think a teacher can do for me is to show interest in my passions. And it made me really happy because they would accommodate me trying to fit them into my learning. I would learn better when I could draw parallels between the work I was doing and my original stories. And they knew that, and I told them that, and they understood that. And they let me, and it was very nice. And I remember another thing that happened that year was we held like an online it was like an online society, basically. I forget what it's called, but we had to like basically build our own society from the ground up using this thing, and I was so excited for like the concept of it. Like everything about it just made me so freaking happy. But then when it actually came to doing it, it was like, this is boring. It's just a bunch of buttons. There's no visuals. Like, I was expecting it to be like The Sims. Basically. It was just like pages of reading. And it was one of those things where I at the point had wanted to run for president in it, but it's one of those things where it really is a popularity contest. Like, the students don't vote for who they actually think would be good. They vote for the most popular student. And sometimes they would correspond, like, my friend Bryden. He's very smart, but he's also very popular. And I think I remember him getting president for one of the in-game years. But, it was just one of those things where it's like, there is no point, so I'm not even gonna try. And because of my unique situation where I kept flip-flopping between classes, majority stayed in Mr. Naibo's class rather than Miss Duffy's class. Like, I still went to both, but I was with Mr. Naibo's class rather than with Miss Duffy's class. Tongue twister, my god. And because of that, I basically just sat back and watched what was happening with the whole thing, which, I mean, kind of impacted my grades, but I still passed. I graduated. Graduation. I completely forgot about graduation. I'm probably not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it, because again, that also involves Shane. But, oh boy. I dressed up as Tazen, because I'm like, hey, go out with a bang, right? And in theory, I was fucking excited. Like, this is gonna be great. I love cosplaying as Tazen. It was one of my first times I'd ever cosplayed out. It was just a really fun experience for me. In practice, though, my self-esteem wasn't where I thought it was, and I was very uncomfortable. I was very out of place. Everyone else was dressed up fancy and everything, and I was not. Because rather than getting a fancy outfit, I had gotten Tazen's wig, which I'm still happy about that. Like, I used Tazen's wig more than I would a fancy outfit, but it's one of those things where it was a hard night for me, but I at one point escaped to the bathroom like I usually did. Well, grade 9 was also when I cut my hair in the bathroom using my phone as a mirror. But, graduation, I escaped to the bathroom when everybody was starting to file into the gym for the medal ceremony and whatnot, stage walking, all that fun stuff. And so I'm bawling my eyes out in the bathroom. I'm messing up my makeup. I didn't even know if I had any makeup on at the time because I hadn't gotten into that aspect of cosplaying yet. And I'm just a mess. And I hear someone enter, so I'm like, shit. And it was Miss Brownridge. She had seen someone leave. And she didn't recognize me because I had my wig on. But she recognized my voice. And because she'd heard me crying before. And she checked up on me. She made sure I was okay. She stayed with me as I was having my breakdown and made sure I was okay. She was there to comfort me. Like, she's just generally the fucking sweetest woman. She walked me back to the, she walked me back to the back to the gym. Helped me dry my eyes. on stage, she used they them pronouns for me, which back then I was just using they them rather than they them he him, because I was still discovering myself. I knew I wasn't female, and I had told her that. She was understanding and accepting, and when saying the stuff about me on stage with little cute cards and announcing everyone's name and reading them, she used they them pronouns for me. And to this day, I don't care that I looked out of place. I don't care that I got, like, not even half the applause that everyone else did when I was up on stage. I knew she was rooting for me. And that's what mattered. And, like, even to this day, my sister goes to the same school I did. She knows that Grace is my sister. So when she sees Grace in the hallway, she'll be like, "Hey, how's Em doing? Hey, how's your sibling?" And she's what I needed that year. Still one of my favorite teachers ever. Miss Brownridge, if you're watching this, I don't know if you are, but thank you. Without you, I was in a really dark place that year. I don't know if without your help I would be where I am today. I don't know if I would be as confident as I am, or as comfortable with myself as I am. I'm sure I would be on my way, but I don't know if I would have achieved it as quickly as I did without your help, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. I didn't mean for this video to get sappy near the end, but here we are. Thank you, Single Fruit Loop, for watching this. I have decided I'm going to split it up into 2 different parts because I don't want to bog this video down any longer than it already is. And I think my drawings would cut out. I'll try to find the original drawing to show you guys, because I like doing that. Remember, I posted it, so it should be in my Google folder, but thank you so much for watching this. I'm sorry it got really sappy near the end. It does that sometimes. It do be like that though. God, I'm a dork. But if you want to see more of these school stories, which I know I'm gonna post more anyway, because I enjoy making them. They're not my most popular videos, but like, screw popularity. I like having fun here. We do have the funs here, but thank you so much for watching. I've said that like 5 times now. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like. Consider giving the video a subscribe. Don't subscribe to me. Subscribe to the video. And check out my other videos if you want to. My Instagram, where I post more art like this. Like this beautiful thing. Like other art that I've done, my general ramblings. My commissions are currently open if anyone's interested in that. Probably not, but no harm in saying. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. It's really heartwarming when I get those comments where it's like, ooh, this is underrated. I like this channel. I really like your art. It warms my heart to no end. And I really hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to be leaving it off there. But again, if you like what you see, consider shooting me a follow, a like, a subscribe, a commission potato, like just throw a potato through my window. I will appreciate that. As long as there's a heartwarming message written on it. Like draw a little heart on the potato, throw it through my window. That's what I like to see. And I will see you all next time. Don't know when that's gonna be. Next month, probably. But, this has been Scrape, signing out.